Hey, 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 good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the Rick and Dave Real Estate Solutions podcast. So, whenever you're watching this, I wish you a good day. I'm one of your co hosts, Dave Stein. I am a real estate agent, real estate investor. I work in financial services and I wear lots of hats, including dad. None of them fit at the same time, so you make it work. I'm joined by my co host, Rick.
Hi, everybody. Rick Beam. I'm a Gator Sub 2 student along with Dave. I own Enterprise Services, a commercial money lending partner. And then I also do some coaching with my business, Silver Trumpet Coaching. So, Dave, I can't wait to meet our guest today.
Yes, I am so excited to introduce our guest today, Caleb Panter. Caleb, you and I met in Arizona back in October. And I'll tell the story to the day I die. Caleb's sitting right now, but he's a tall dude and he's a muscular fella, right? So I walk into the Airbnb and Caleb's sitting there. He's like, "Hey, you must be Dave." Stands up and I about walk out the door because this guy is a mammoth of a man. But the craziest part is Caleb. So Caleb has a movement. You can see it on his hat, Momentageous. He's a transformation coach, a financial strategist, motivational speaker. And I've been super blessed that we've crossed paths starting in October, and now
Yeah.
we're doing business together. So Caleb, why don't you give us a little intro of yourself?
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Rick. I'm always glad to have a conversation that could potentially inspire somebody, encourage somebody, or just make good connections. So thanks for having me on. I grew up in a little town in Sulphur Springs, Texas, the oldest of four boys. Mom and dad still live in Sulphur Springs, and went to college, played college basketball, ended up coaching for a little bit, college basketball and then high school basketball. Was a dean of students and Bible faculty member, and met my wife when I was 19. She was 17. We got married at 23 and 21. So
Oh my
we've
gosh.
raised each other. And our travels have taken us from Oklahoma City to Atlanta, Georgia, to Dallas, Texas, where we currently live in a suburb of Dallas. But yeah, just been on a major journey my whole life of trying to live into my name, which is Caleb. And it means bold, it means loyal, it means wholehearted. And yeah, trying to do that and inspire others to do the same. So excited to have a conversation around that.
Yeah, so just to go right off the bat, Momentageous. You talked to me about this in October and really more in depth when we met in Vegas earlier this year. And that's not even a word. Like, what the heck does that mean?
Well, hey, listen. So here's the backstory. In 2011, I had just graduated law school. I was working for a university. I went to law school for a couple reasons. One is because I needed something important to sound like I was up to. I needed some reason for people to think I was not just being fickle. And I joke about that, but there's a lot of pain in that. And most people don't set out to go to law school to get approval, but there's a part of me that did. And so the other reason I went to law school is because at the time, I the people that were in my ecosystem in my sphere that had influence in my life, that were private school administrators, university level, most of them had a JD, not a PhD. And so I saw it as a practical way to move into that space, and so that's where I was headed. And so yeah, so in 2011. I'm coming out of law school in 2010. I'm just feeling lost, feeling the pain of coming to the end of my 20s, not really feeling like I had accomplished that much, not really knowing what direction I was going in, and not really having a North Star. Even though I've always loved Jesus, had a strong faith, I just didn't have a North Star from a career vocation standpoint. Just felt like I was bouncing around. And so I'm at a leadership conference in the fall of 2011 out in Atlanta, Georgia. We're still living in Oklahoma City at the time. And one of the speakers really demystified the idea of being a creative and what creativity was. And the speaker just said, you take two different ideas and you put them together, and that's creativity. And in that moment, I just felt like there was this divine moment taking place where I allowed myself to acknowledge that I was a creative. And some of the tension that I'd felt was I'd been trying to fit into to boxes and other things that didn't allow me to use that creativity to the fullest like I would want to. And so in that moment, the theme of the conference was be present. And so I thought, okay, well, if I could just live courageous in every moment, then that'll be okay. That'll be enough. I can look back on my life. And for whatever reason, the way my brain works, whatever, I was able to say courageous plus moment. Okay, that equals momentageous. Momentageous. If I can just, that can be my rally cry. It'll be my own little personal thing. I'll live momentageous, courageous in the moment, and it'll be enough. And like you said, Dave, it's a brand new word. So I went and Googled it, and nobody had ever, no, momentageous didn't exist, but for 3 entries that were misspellings of another word. So it was my biggest contribution. So I was like, okay, I'm on to something original. If nothing else, I can use it for myself. And it can be inspiration for me. It can help me live the life that I want to. But since then, I've felt a strong urge and a strong responsibility to not just hold it on my own, but to give it away. So to help inspire people to live courageous in every moment is something that I'm all about. And as that language has evolved, my mission now that I think is more appropriate is I want to help people become wholehearted and live on purpose, one courageous moment at a time.
Caleb, I've got a question now. Something that you said sticks out to me, and that's, courage. One of the things that we've talked about on our podcast, and I've actually written some LinkedIn posts up for my Silver Trumpet coaching on this, is fear and doubt.
Yeah.
Fear and doubt. I would love to hear your perspective, how you conquer both fear and doubt, because they're different. And, and where courage comes in, because courage does not mean that you don't have fear and that you don't have doubt.
Right.
Give me your perspective on those and how you get there. How do you get to courage?
Well, most people that have some kind of trumpet call for their life, most people that have some kind of North Star have come to that place because it's a pain point in their life. And so I think if I'm being real honest with myself, there's been just an undercurrent of anxiety that's either genetic or circumstantial or whatever, biological even, that's just sort of been at the forefront of my life. And so a lot of my awareness to my past as I've done story work and tried to really be intentional about coaching and therapy, and still have a long way to go on all that. I'm looking back and realizing there was just a major undercurrent of anxiety. And that anxiety produced different emotions. So that, anxiety in itself is not a bad thing. We talk to our daughter about this all the time. Anxiety is an alarm that's going off that says, hey, let's pay attention here. And so as I've acknowledged at different seasons of my life, and am learning to acknowledge in a healthier way the role of fear and doubt. I think for so much of my life, I just wanted to move them to the side or go around them. And I think the journey of the last 5 years of my life is to move through them. And so it's real popular to see shirts or sweatshirts that say faith over fear. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's the best message. I think faith and fear coexist. And I think doubt and faith coexist. And the idea would be to acknowledge them, to recognize the role that they're playing, whether that's producing something positive in us or maybe not as positive, but it gives us permission to be honest with ourselves, to self-attune, to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing right now. I wonder what's going on here. What do I need to do? What am I missing? What need do I have that would help me move through this differently? And sometimes, man, that's a real complex solution. And sometimes it's not. It's, hey, I just need to go on a walk and take a break and be with nature, or I need to reach out to a friend, or I need to confess that to my wife that, I mean, like we were just on a walk, my wife and I were, and one of the last conversations we had before I came in to be on this podcast was just, hey, there are times that I struggle to admit that I'm feeling afraid. And in those moments, that's not about her. That's more about me feeling weak and becoming more and more comfortable with going, hey, I don't have to have all the answers. I can express what I'm going through. So, it's interesting, Rick, that question, because my first name, Caleb, means bold. My middle name is Thomas, and my last name is Panter. So if you put the definitions of my name together, it's a bold, wholehearted guy who struggles with doubt and attempts to provide sustenance for large groups of people. The Panter was the keeper of the pantry. And so I just think doubt and fear are a real part of life. And if we can learn to embrace them and ask deeper questions and be more curious around them, we can move through them.
I love your perspective and your energy there. That fear and anxieties, I think sometimes we get that false belief that these are abnormal. And
Right.
everybody has fear and anxiety, and actually they're meant to protect to keep us safe.
That's right.
We can't let them paralyze us.
Yeah.
So I know we've talked about that in the past. In the investing world, sometimes we get so caught up in the fear and anxiety that we're so afraid to make a mistake that we choose to do nothing, and that alone is a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk about and everything I talk about is stuff I've learned over time, but I when I talk about anxiety being an alarm, if during this podcast right now, one of our houses or one of our locations, an alarm started going off in the background, we wouldn't just keep talking on this conversation. We would pause, or we would go, I need to check on that. But we probably also wouldn't like go crazy and grab whatever weapons we need and run out and be like, I'll be back. Like that would be a strong
Overcorrection.
response. Yeah,
Yes.
that would be a strong response to just, I wonder why that alarm's going off. Oh, the window's open. I should probably shut it. I mean, like, or the wind blew and the car alarm went off. Like, I think so many times I'm learning too that the nervous system plays such a key role in all this, because when we can calmly get to a place of regulation, then we can really be more curious, and we can have those more positive emotions and be able to think and feel at the same time. And that allows us to move in the world differently, because even if we're afraid, we're able to still move. And so I just think it's beautiful how God created our bodies, that he would give us a nervous system that's meant to protect us. And, frankly, the noise and the chaos of the world has gotten us oversaturated and out of whack. And so we have to really get back to that regulated state. That's so important. That's very important in the work that I'm doing on myself right now and in community.
So I think that's actually a perfect segue, Caleb. I think some of the things that I've heard you say, but I'd like to hear you talk more about it, is number one, your relationship with your wife,
Yeah,
and how you've gone through ups and downs,
sure.
and you've had to be courageous even before you made up the word Momentageous.
Yeah,
You guys have both had to have like, okay, we're gonna do this. You might be scared shitless,
yeah,
but you're
absolutely.
taking that step forward together.
Yeah,
And I just know that you've gone from like almost not free fall, but you went from like stable paycheck to entrepreneurship kind of
yeah,
overnight.
yeah.
And just so talk through those two things and how your overcoming or walking with fear played into it.
Yeah, let's just talk about marriage. I mean, like I referenced earlier, when I met Addie, who's an incredible human, incredibly talented.
Agreed. She's an amazing human.
Golly, I joke with her, but it's not a joke. Like the moment I saw her, I knew like this is the woman I'm going to try to commit to, because she's everything I could ever want. And so um, at 19 and 17, and then getting married at 23 and 21, my brain wasn't even formed. I brought a bunch of baggage into our marriage. I mean, um, as a faith person, I mean, frankly, I just brought sin into the relationship. And that wasn't her fault, but it definitely had an effect on our relationship, um, and soured some of the early years just because I wasn't that healthy. And so, um, I've heard it said that you marry one person multiple times. If you stay married for a long amount of time, and I know not everybody does, and I know there's a lot of pain associated with that. So I don't want to be trite about that, but me and Addie are probably on our fifth marriage to each other. And um, and at every stage of our marriage, including one stage where we almost got divorced, um, we've had to come back and go, okay, what's going on with me? How does that affect us? And how can we individually move differently into the marriage to show it differently? And so there's a lot of things that affect that. Um, um, like I mentioned earlier, the anxiety, that manifests in different ways. For some people, that manifests in relationships, in attachment, as in insecure attachment, where it can be insecure. And like for me, I tend to overanalyze every little misstep and just make sure she's not going anywhere when I'm unhealthy, and can tend to control there. And while I don't want to speak for her, I know that part of her pattern is to move in a more of avoidant kind of way. And so you have two insecure attachments, one moving in an avoidant way, one moving insecurely towards control. And that's just a bad pattern. It's just a really unhealthy pattern. And so when we're both healthy and when we're both moving in healthier ways, then we show up securely. We're two individual people stepping and choosing to be in a relationship, and that just produces a healthier outcome. But yeah, man, I mean, marriage is an incredible crucible for growth. And
For
I,
sure.
I heard somebody say, it's probably on Instagram, that when you marry someone that you're deeply in love with, they're gonna like produce the most incredible fantasies of your life and the most incredible nightmares of your life. And I can laugh about that because there have been times I've cried about that same thing.
Sure.
And so, yeah, so the growth from our marriage has been, and that crucible of our marriage has been the single most growth producing environment. And it's just forced me to work really hard on myself to show up differently.
For
And I'm
sure.
thankful. I'm thankful that I have a spouse that's willing to do the same and challenge me to do that in ways that I wouldn't be comfortable with. And as a result of that, um, it's been incredibly painful at times, and all caps, it's been incredibly amazing at the same time.
For
Um,
sure.
so yeah, so that's a I could talk about that for hours because there's stages of growth that have just produced things that I would have never thought possible. I'm really
Yeah.
thankful for that. As it relates to vocation, um, yeah, so March, April 2024, I was working as a pastor at a church, and I wasn't. I've worked in churches for eight plus years. I've been in the nonprofit space for about 15 to 20. Really loved that space, but never really stepped out to be like, it wasn't on my bucket list to be a pastor per se. I love the Lord. I love the local church. Um, Addie and I are active in our church and thankful for that. Um, but I think I was more of a leader who was wearing the hat of a pastor. And so I think the church that I was in a season where they needed a certain type of leader to shepherd and pastor them through the season that they were in. And I'm not I can do it, but I'm not the best pastoral leader per se. You don't want me at your bedside for hospice, because if you're still breathing, I'm like, let's go on a walk. We can get this thing done, right? There's still hope. And sometimes, and I'm not insinuating that that church was on hospice. I'm just saying they needed a type of leader. And at the time, my title was vision. Part of my title was vision pastor. And anytime I would think about the vision for the future or discern what the vision for the future was, I wasn't a part of it. And so, that's a courageous moment in and of itself, where I have to raise my hand and go, out of obedience and out of honesty, this body of Christ does not need a half-hearted leader. And I
Mhm.
was feeling other tensions at the time in my own life that were outside of what was happening in the church. But I had to be honest with myself. Fortunately, I have a very supportive wife, like I've mentioned, and and I just knew I had to raise my hand and say, I don't think I can do this anymore. And so that sent me on a journey where I knew that because I'd done consulting and coaching on the side, and the churches that I worked in had always allowed me to go do that with different organizations. I knew that'd be a part of the future. I did not see financial services becoming a part of the future, and we should probably explore what that looks like and means. But yeah, so Addie and I both have stepped out of our full-time jobs, and we are now individually and collectively using our gifts and talents. And so we both have our own sort of worlds that we move in that go through calebpanter.com and addiepanter.com. But then we've united forces, and we're building a holistic coaching and consulting and financial services firm called the Pantry Group. And again, Panter
Love
being
that.
the last name, the Pantry Group exists to help people live a full life. And so
So
whether
what
we
is the pantry group? Tell us what
yeah,
that is.
yeah. So the Pantry Group is really me and Addie coming together and saying, hey, we want to do something as a joint venture. We're better together. Even though we love doing our own thing and we have individual gifts, the Pantry Group exists to help people live a full life. In John 10:10, he says, I came to give you life. I came to give you the abundant life, the full life. And so on our journey of growth over the last 20 years, that's what we've started to experience is the opportunity to live a full life. And we're not done yet, but we want to help other people do that. And so rather than segment things off, we thought, let's build the Pantry Group. With our last name, Panter, we'll literally be the keepers of the pantry. And we want to provide resources and opportunities for people to live that full life in all the domains of their lives, whether it be physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, financial, relational. We want people to be able to come to a one-stop shop, and we can curate a different content and leadership development and experiences depending on the problem that someone's facing, or they can use pre-built experiences like we have in the financial services industry to maximize the wealth that they already have or the wealth that they want to have. We want to help people dream again, and we want to be able to give them sustenance along the way. So the tagline that we're using right now is that at the Pantry Group, we want to help you live a full life because nourished people nourish people. And so if we can feed
Love
people,
that.
if we can feed people and help one person feel full, then they're going to go from that place and help feed others. And so we just want it to be a multiplying effect.
Absolutely love that. And might I say, so I've met Addie. She's a true treasure. I had no idea that she was also in the business with you using her own talents.
Yeah.
I thought she was, more of that support wife, but now it just brings this whole new lens to her. And you
Listen,
guys as a couple raising
yeah.
kids do like now I'm just blown away. I had no idea that the pantry group was in the works.
Addie's the most talented of the Panthers. Let's be very clear about this. But here's the thing: we both have different gifts. So Addie has this incredibly nurturing. I mean, Dave, you've met her. Like she's incredibly nurturing. She is incredibly pastoral. She's a vocal coach, and her primary target is worship pastors. And so she's a vocal coach to worship pastors, and and she's incredibly gifted at that, both as a worship pastor herself, a vocalist, an artist, and a pastor to those to help them really find their own voice and unlock that. And so that's incredible work that she does. But that skill set that she has transfers into this Pantry Group because when we walk with couples, when we walk with executive leaders, when we walk with teams, like she just brings that incredible hospitality, nurturing, pastoral experience and helps people feel really safe, so that I can then challenge them, invite them into more. And as a team, we're able to work in tandem to do that. And so, rather than try to just build individual worlds, we just thought, okay, we're going to continue to do our individual things, but we really want to do that under the auspices of the Pantry Group. And as you know, Dave, in this financial services world and in this entrepreneurial world, it's a lot more fun to be on a team. And so we're building a team of associates as well that can bring their own skill sets to that Pantry Group. And that way we can offer more nourishment in all different areas. So it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Caleb, I can hear the listeners listening to you and being really interested, and then thinking to themselves, yeah, but I've got 40 hours at work.
Yeah.
I've got a couple hours with the kids each night. I've got basketball. I got to take the kids to basketball practice. I don't have time. I can't do it. I'm overwhelmed. How how does a person take one step at a time? Like, what are your initial steps to get a person from being a spectator to being a participant and actually moving forward?
Yeah. So there's actually three things that I think are really important. And I call these the momentageous mindset or the momentageous mentality. And they're meant to be they're meant to answer the question you have, Rick. And here are the three premises. The premise number one is that you're always one courageous moment away. So no matter what you're doing in life, you're one courageous moment away from shifting your trajectory. And it does require courage, but it also requires a promise that you make to yourself, which is, I'm going to stay open. I'm always going to be open to what could be. I'm always going to be open to what's really happening. I think, when you list out, hey, there's basketball practice, there's this, I got 40 hours a week. Every one of those things that we've said yes to means we've had to say 1,000 no's. And those are all choices. No one, and this is where I could get a little preachy, and I don't mean to, but it is just an absolute passion point of mine, is like, no one makes us sign our kids up for sports. No one makes us go work a 40-hour job. Now, are there realities and are there opportunities that we're saying yes to? Yeah, absolutely. But we have to own that we're making those choices, no matter what they are. So ownership's a big piece, but I'm going to stay open because I'm one courageous moment away. The second premise is this: momentum comes from a collision of courageous moments. So when I stack those moments on top of each other, it doesn't require me to quit my job. That's just part of my story. It doesn't require someone else to do the most unbelievably courageous, heroic thing. No, it's just, I got to stack courageous moments on top of each other. So I'm one courageous moment away. Momentum comes from a collision of courageous moments. I'm going to stay open, and then I'm going to promise myself that I'm going to show up. So I'm going to stay open, and I'm going to show up no matter what. No matter whether I'm at basketball practice, no matter whether I'm at church, no matter whether I'm at home tucking my kids in, this is what I'm going to attempt to do. And then the third premise that I think is actually the most important premise is this play on the words where I say courageous begins with C. Literally, the word courageous begins with C, but I'm using Spanish, S-I. Courageous begins with C. So courageous begins with yes. So the promise I make to myself is I'm going to say yes. And so if I'm going to say yes to basketball practice, then I know I'm saying no to something else. If I'm going to say yes to my marriage, then I know I'm saying no to something else. If I'm going to say yes to a job or be an entrepreneur, then I have to count the cost that comes with that. And so really what I want people to do to be able to be more present and to live the most momentageous or courageous in the moment life is to stay open, show up, and say yes. And when they do that, it gives them permission to be present wherever they are. And every one of these moments allows them to be courageous. And then when we stack those on top of each other, that's where momentum happens. But I think the biggest piece as we stay open, show up, and say yes, is we have to choose to take ownership of whether or not we're going to do that. And I have lived too many years in my life where life was happening to me rather than me happening to life.
Mm.
And that's really what I want to encourage people to do is if you're going to live a courageous life, then you really, the best definition I know of courage, there's lots of them out there, but I love Brene Brown's definition of courage, where she really says courage is a heart word and it means to show up. So it means to be wholehearted, to be 2 feet in. And if people are going to do that, they got to stay open, they got to show up, and they got to say yes. Just recognize that whatever you say yes to means you're saying no to something as well.
I love that. I I love those three principles. I think it makes a lot of sense to the ownership of what your where your life is going. There's only one person controlling it, right? There
Mm-hmm.
are influencing factors, but your actions, actually just talked with this with a new agent in our office, like you can control your actions and that's it, and your
Yep.
mentality. Um, you another like you're just setting me up, Caleb, for these great segues. We've talked financial strategists. We've talked fear.
Yeah,
The world is crazy. Stock market is crazy.
sure.
Um, how did you, a quick synopsis on how you got into financial services, and then what are you seeing, not financial advice, consult
Yeah,
your financial advisor, your attorney, whoever,
yeah.
but what are you seeing and how would you help someone knowing that right now the market is just nosediving, have that courageous moment and do something that will eventually help them build their wealth?
Yeah, so the way I got into this was by staying open, showing up, and saying yes, truly. And that's part of why I can talk about that with any kind of credibility is after about 6 or 7 months of trying to build a coaching consulting business, I'd had, you know, I'd had a little bit of success, but it wasn't anything that was going to be sustainable by itself. And so um, I was in a moment last fall where a friend of mine, well, Brian Williams, who we all know, Dave, you and I know, he said, "Hey, I want you to meet my friend Shane. Shane is an executive coach. I just think he'd be a great guy for you to visit with, former pastor." And I was like, "Sure, I'm open. Let's meet with anyone,
Yeah.
right?"
Yep.
So Shane and I got on a call. He lives in Phoenix. I live in Plano, Texas, and man, he just pastored to my heart. I needed a friend in that moment to just see me, to just hold space for the tension I was feeling, for the lack of success I was feeling, for the pressure I was feeling in that moment. And as we started talking, he was like, "Man, I'll help you build your business. But what I'm doing now is actually more fun and more exciting to me because it allows me to serve people better." And he was like, I'm in the financial services business. And to be real honest with you, my first instinct was like, either like I'm out. I'm out.
Yep.
I probably did an X like literally on the call. But it wasn't about what he was saying and it wasn't about the opportunity. It was about my own trepidation and fear of just not knowing what I didn't know. And so the more I talked with Shane about it, the more I understood about it. I was like, man, I think a lot of things in my life have been setting me up to be able to be successful in this industry. One of the things I haven't even mentioned about Addie is she's also an accountant. So Addie's been in
Oh
the
my gosh.
like she's been running private equity books and nonprofit books. And so like she knows more about that space than I do. We both have
Hmm.
business degrees, accounting degrees. I have a law degree. So like the Lord was present in the past and was setting us up for a season of life that we could never predict. And so I was curious enough. So I took the idea back to Addie and she was like, "Hey, I think you need to listen to this." And so I just kept walking out with Shane, went and got licensed, still working on my securities license, excited about what that's going to bring, but really excited to be able to have tangible solutions that help people move towards their dreams and their goals, both financially and personally and in business and all the things. And so um, I can't believe that I get to be in this industry, to be real honest with you, because I think there were barriers to entry that I put up that I didn't realize I could move past under the right circumstances. And so that's some of the backstory of how I got into it. But here's
Yeah.
what I will tell you about the reality that we're facing right now. Um, these are these are these are moments in time when people that are open to possibilities can really maximize things. Because fear is what the world is reacting to right now. Markets, and like you said, this isn't advice, this is just my perspective. The world, a currency that the world unfortunately operates in is fear. And when we're afraid, chaos ensues. Think about COVID and toilet paper. We're all going to be okay. All right.
Yeah.
And not to be crude, but there are other ways to wipe besides toilet paper. But we had a small solution, scarcity mindset. Let's get as much toilet paper as possible. That's more of an indication of our internal state than it is about whether or not toilet paper is going to be in short supply or not, right? So this is what happens. And unfortunately, this is what happens when change is present. And if we've learned anything, change is always present. And so staying open and facing reality rather than running away from it or shying away from it allows us to look at things with a sober mindset and go, okay, what's really happening here? Not who's winning politically, not do I support this or not, but like what is possible in this market? And so with people losing money, which is no fun for anyone, it gives certain people a chance to jump in the market in ways that they haven't had in the past. Is there risk associated with it? Yes, always. With some of the vehicles that we use, index universal life insurance that's properly structured and max funded, which, majority of life insurance agents don't even know how to do, which has given it the IUL a bad name. Incredible time that the S&P
you
is
both said a
lower,
couple of things
and
that
some
I
of these
think we can
indices are
start
lower
wrapping up
to
on.
jump in and
Rick
realize some
mentioned,
stronger gains as the market
turmoil
corrects
creates
itself.
heroes.
And so
You mentioned
I just
being
think it's
open
a
to
really
opportunity. It also
important
creates
time for
opportunity.
people to take
There
stock
are
of, okay,
investors that we have talked
it
to.
may
We
be
actually
true that
had
I'm afraid.
Joe from our
And
team
it
on the
is true that
podcast,
some people have lost
and he
money.
talked
We don't
about
ever want to make
private
light
money
of
lenders
that.
and investors, how
It's
they can
also
leverage some of the
true
financial
that
tools that
this
we
is a
have
time for certain
to
people to
both still do what they're
maximize
doing,
and
but
jump in
kind of
certain markets,
double-edged on their sword or double dip
especially
on
if
their
they haven't
dollar.
lost the same amount of money or they were a little bit
Man, I
cash
had a
rich or
sweet thought
whatever.
it was going to be
This
a
is a
great
good
closing, and
time
I
to get
just
in
lost it.
because the gains that could potentially be
Man,
realized over
There's a Rick's
time
beautiful
are
face
going to
that
be great.
I got lost on.
But again,
Caleb,
regardless of your
this
strategy,
is probably part 1 of 10
staying
that we could
open
go on.
and
I
being
think it's been a
curious
fantastic
is the posture
conversation.
we have to have.
You've
And,
mentioned a couple times, but one last time, how do people get a
we
hold of
tend to
you?
not
What's
do
the
that
best
when
way?
we're afraid. And so if we can move in a way, and we as advisors and as coaches and consultants and leaders can say, hey, let's take a breath here. What's possible? What's possible? And then we can help take people, and like Rick was saying earlier, like, how do we help take a baby step? Is like, okay, maybe the baby step right now is stay open. We're not going to force you to make a decision right now. If you've lost 40% of your net worth, now is not a time to pull that money out. Let's just be patient for just a second. If you've lost that much, maybe now is not a time for you to invest in other vehicles. But let's figure out what your risk threshold is, what your goals are, what your dreams are, and then let's create a plan for what's possible. That's where it gets really exciting. But most of us, if we're not practicing that, can tend to become avoidant and become fear-based and riddled with anxiety. Whereas in these moments, these are the moments to show up and to be present.
What I think I hear you saying is in times of crisis like what we're in, or times of turmoil, maybe that's a better way of putting it.
100%.
Some people will look at that and they'll see all the turmoil, and other people will look at it and say, there's opportunity here. This is a great time to be. These are challenges, but before
I
there's
love
a
it. And it
hero
came back
in
to me.
any story,
What I heard you both say
always
was,
that period of crisis.
and
There's
something
always
that,
that period
Eric
of
Hatch of
tumult,
Hatch Coaching, Hatch Realty has said,
that's
be the light.
there's opportunity.
So in times
here.
of
This
darkness
is
and
where
times of
I can take a
turmoil,
step
be
forward,
the light and be
improve myself,
the beacon. Be
and get
someone that
good,
someone
get
can look and be
good
like, there's
guidance,
something
go to good
that I can reach
coaching,
out to. And it doesn't
and not
mean,
make emotional
again, like you said,
decisions,
Caleb, it doesn't
but
have to be
rather
all
well
in,
thought out,
give us all your money,
logical
give us all of your
decisions.
faith.
Well,
give us
Rick, you're getting
everything,
into some
but
of your
just be
story brand
open.
stuff. I
Be the
can hear
light.
it coming out,
I
right?
love that.
Yeah.
Rick,
Listen,
how do people get a
here's
hold of
the
you?
thing. This is what I love about story brand. When you tell the hero story and you get to the end, there's always something that could be lost if you don't choose to act. So there's something that can be
Awesome.
gained,
And folks
and
can
there's
find
something
me
that can
at
be
Dave
lost.
Stein
Just like I
29
said
on all
earlier,
of the
every
socials.
yes means
If
there's
you're
a
watching
no.
this, you
Every
can scan the
no
QR
is a
code.
possibility of yes.
Caleb, Rick,
And so
absolute great.
if
Can't
we
wait
play
for the
that
next one.
story out and we say what's
Yeah, send it.
possible in this moment, and you meet a guide that is trustworthy
Man,
and that
I
can
wish I should
help
have worn it
you
today. I clearly
and
don't have planning
navigate the journey
capability.
with you, then the
I have
upside is
a
really
Momentageous
possible, and the
sweatshirt.
downside could
I believe
actually be
it's
mitigated
Carpe
in a way that actually helps you
Carpe
get closer to
Momentum.
where you want to be
And it
than where
talks about
you could have
Caleb's,
been otherwise. And yeah,
momentum
it is
is
not
a
a
collision
time for
of
us
courageous
to
moments stacked on one
heap
another.
shame upon people that
I
are
almost
afraid or
live in that
scared.
thing, which
It's
is
more of a
probably
time
why I
for us
didn't
to
wear it to
lean
work
into
today, is because it
vulnerability
probably
and
smells.
say,
So,
yeah, me too.
super comfy.
I felt
This
that.
is not a plug, but a
I felt
semi-plug
that this
for
morning.
Caleb Panter's
Not about
attire.
finances, but
Very
about other
comfortable
areas of my
and just a
life. I mean,
great,
I'm a
again, it's a
dad.
light.
I've got
When I
a
walk
wife.
around,
I
people
got
can
2
ask, like,
kids.
oh, what is
I've
that?
got
What
a
does that mean?
dog. I've got bills. Like there are realities that we have to face, and every moment is a courageous moment where we are one step away from shifting our trajectory. And I just think it's important for us to hold that tension and hold that posture. And then the other thing too that goes back to a question you asked, Dave, is like, for so many years of my life vocationally, there was a certain audience of people that I could help. And now, with the tools in our toolkit and the pantry group being formed, every person that I come into contact, I have a tool that I can offer them to serve.
Yeah, absolutely,
them.
brother. Okay, guys.
Incredible.
We'll take care. See you
is
later.
it to be able to serve people in every sphere of their life, whether it's coaching, consulting, financial services, relationship, connections, whatever it may be. So like I'm trying to embrace the day. I was in Starbucks this morning working on a little project, and I was looking around going, I could help every person in here. How cool is that? And so I love the freedom, the independence, and the autonomy that this service industry of offering coaching, consulting, and financial services allows for. Yeah. Yeah. So CalebPanter.com is the best way to get a hold of me. You can schedule a 30-minute free discovery call. If I can help you with coaching, consulting, if I can help you in your business, or if I can offer you financial services, or you guys want to hit up Dave. He may seem more trustworthy than me on the financial services. But here's the thing. My goal is to help people.
100%.
And in Think and Grow Rich, he talks about offering personal services and leveraging your gifts on behalf of others. And so it's a treat and a privilege. I would love to, I'll say it this way. I'm willing to endure the ups and downs of entrepreneurship to be able to serve people in the way that I believe I can serve people, if that means more people get helped along the journey. And so that's worth the risk of being an entrepreneur to me. And so thank you guys for the work you're doing, because in all of the industries that you're in and the way you guys are educating people and giving access to other leaders, it helps us all realize that when we all win, we all win. I love that. And so there's no competition. except against ourselves. And so if you're a person who's trying to grow and you think a voice like mine could help you in some way, calebpanter.com. I'd love to walk with you.
You can find me on LinkedIn and on Facebook, Enterprise Services. I'd love to work with you if you need any kind of commercial funding. I'd love to work with you.
One thing. Tell me about your sweatshirt. Tell the people about your sweatshirt. Momentum. And that's why I made it. I mean, the beauty of today's world is you can print on demand and you can make your own designs. And so we need positive messages out there. So wearyourcourage.com is a place you can go to literally wear your courage on your sleeve.
Yeah.
And so this is not this is not a shameless plug. This is just a plug. Go get you a sweatshirt. But Dave, I just wanted to say thank you because one of the things that I get to experience on trying to help people live courageous in the moment is when people catch the vision. And I love that you've caught the vision, and it inspires me because I'm like, okay, cool. As long as I can help one person at a time, it makes it all worth it. So thank you for your support and all of that.